All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm David Solomon, and I'm the Meeting and Technology Coordinator for the Foundation. Before we get started, I'm just going to do a short tutorial on how to use the meeting interface. First of all, we have our audio presentation here, and that's only going to be available through your phone. So just call up this number right here, and the participant code is right below, and you'll be connected. Obviously, if you're listening, you've already connected. If you haven't already muted your phone, please mute your phone by hitting *6. And if you need to ask a question, #6 will unmute your phone. And if you have any questions during the meeting, just use the Q&A button across the top. It should be around the top of your interface here. After that, all you have to do is just type in under the Q&A box the question for the presenter, and make sure that you hit enter or ask to submit the question, and we'll get to your questions either during the presentation if it's a small question, or if it's something that can be answered to everybody. We can also answer them whenever Don takes a break, or if anybody else needs to answer any questions. You can also raise your hand if you have any questions, and there's a little button right here on the right side of the Q&A where you can raise your hand, and we'll get to you as soon as we see them. And finally, if you want to let us know how it's going, so that way if you need us to slow down or if you can't hear, there's a little button in the top right corner that says feedback, and it has a little green button right now, which means proceed. But if you can't hear us, or if you need us to slow down, or if you have any questions or need help, just change that color, and then we'll see it on our menu system here. And that's pretty much it. So now the Foundation's Executive Director, Robert Miller, is going to introduce tonight's presenters.
Thank you. Hi, this is Robbie Miller, Executive Director, and I just want to say we're really honored and thrilled to have Don Bailey and his team here and be working collaboratively with you on the family survey. Those of you who don't know should know that Don Bailey is a long-time internationally recognized Fragile X researcher, former president of the board of directors of the Foundation, former member of the Foundation Scientific and Clinical Advisory Committee, and just an all-around great guy. And we're just thrilled, Don, that we can be working with you and assisting you on this really critical survey that I think is changing the Fragile X field. So welcome, and I'll let you take it from there and introduce your other team members.
Great. Thank you so much, Robbie and Linda and David, and thanks. Welcome everybody tonight. Thanks for joining us tonight. And hopefully we won't take too long to do a presentation, maybe about 15 or 20 minutes to give you kind of an overview of where we are and what we're hoping to do, and then open it up for some questions and discussion. So we'll be talking about something called our Fragile X World and asking for some assistance from the links groups in helping us enroll families. So just wanted to give you a little bit of background information. So we all work at a place called RTI International. It's a not-for-profit research institute. It's about over 50 years old, and it was set up by local state government and area universities in North Carolina, and general mission to improve the human condition by turning knowledge into practice. And it's entirely supported by grants and contracts, so it's very much a soft money organization. And survey research is one of its major strengths. And so when I left the University of North Carolina and came here, I was really excited to see the survey research capability. I've certainly learned quite a bit from that. So this is our team, and I think I can use this little dot here. So I'm the old guy in the right-hand corner there. And then on the left-hand top is Melissa Raspa. Melissa is the RTI project director of our Fragile X World, and she's been working with me on this survey for 4 or 5 years since we did the first survey. And in the middle here is Ann Wheeler. Ann's at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Ann, so if you probably know Ann, she worked with us on a number of our earlier projects and actually going out and doing assessments of kids. And Ann is the principal investigator of a grant we have now from the CDC that goes through North Carolina, and then it's a partnership between North Carolina and RTI. The other guy in the back is Murray Olmsted. Murray is a survey researcher here at RTI, and he's helped us with how you design and distribute surveys. The woman in the middle, the front row here, is Ann Edwards. Some of you may know Ann. She worked with Joanne Roberts on Joanne's language development studies when she was at the Frank Porter Graham Child Development Institute. Now she's working with us here at RTI. On the left front is Kristen Cooley, and Kristen is a doctoral student, is a graduate student in school psychology at UNC, and then Megan Kovac is another graduate student at UNC. And so I'm not sure what's going on this team, but we've had 3 babies in the last 3 or 4 months. Kristen and Megan and Ann all have new babies, so we're really excited. So, as Robbie said, I have a Fragile X story myself. My wife's uncle, who's pictured here, was diagnosed with Fragile X syndrome in 1986. And so a couple of years later, we were in a part of a big national study that Ted Brown and some others were doing, and this was before the gene for Fragile X was discovered. And so they were testing any kids that had any kind of learning problems. My daughter had a learning disability at that time, so she was diagnosed with something I'd never heard of at that time, with Fragile X syndrome. And so a few years later, I began Fragile X research. I had been studying kids with disabilities all my career anyway, but really started to focus on Fragile X at that time. And so over the years, we've done longitudinal studies of children and families, and we did a big national survey that I'll describe to you in a minute earlier. And I'm also now doing a newborn screening study in Chapel Hill. And as Robbie said, I was also with the Foundation for 4 years, serving on the Scientific and Clinical Advisory Committee, and for 2 years as the President of the Board of Directors, and just a real fan of the Foundation. So this is a picture of my daughter is the second person from the left. This is Laura. She's now 30, she'll be 33 this summer, and these are 3 young women who were on a panel at the last Fragile X Foundation conference in Detroit, talking about their lives as adult women with Fragile X. So today I'm going to briefly summarize the first National Fragile X Family Survey and describe new studies that we're doing, and especially what we're talking about when we mean our Fragile X world, and then mainly focus on how the links groups could help support the project by encouraging families to enroll. So we did, as most of you probably know, a first Fragile X survey a few years ago, and this survey was really done because most studies in Fragile X had only included 50 or 60 or maybe 70 kids or families, and people were wondering whether those data or those studies were representative of all people with Fragile X. And so we wanted to do a study that had a larger and ideally a more representative sample of families and affected individuals. We wanted to have a better picture of the effects of Fragile X. We wanted to look at functional skill attainment. A lot of studies have been looking at IQ, but we really wanted to look at life circumstances of individuals with Fragile X and at different ages, and also get parents' opinions about changes in diagnosis and their opinions about screening. So from our perspective, it was really successful. We had 1,250 families enroll in the fall of 2007. And then in the spring of 2000, they filled out some initial information, and then in the spring we asked them to complete the original survey funded by the Centers for Disease Control, and a little over 1,000 families did that. So here is a map showing the location of the families who participated in the first study, and so the darker boxes, or darker counties, this is every county in the United States. So the darker the county, the more people from that county participated in the survey. So you can see that we had hot spots around Southern California, certainly the Pacific Northwest, Illinois, New York, Boston area, Miami, and so forth. You can see we've got a lot of counties where we don't have any representation. So I'll be glad to talk with any of you individually at another time, but you can kind of look quickly and see where your parent group is and what the color is of the counties where you're represented or in your state. And our goal would be to have more families this time and more geographic and other kinds of diversity. So just thought I'd give you very quick examples of some of the things we learned from that first survey. So one of the things we wanted to know, well, at what age are kids with Fragile X syndrome being diagnosed. And this is a very important paper we published a couple of years ago. It's called No Change in the Age of Diagnosis. And this line at the top shows you the age and month in 2001, 2002, 2003 that children with Fragile X syndrome were diagnosed. And you can see it really staying flat at around 36 months of age. And so this has been really important data for helping the CDC and other agencies think about ways to help promote earlier identification. This is an example of some of the functional skills data. So this is looking at different age groups, birth to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, over to 20 years of age. And you can see that in each group we had several hundred families. David, I'm seeing a chat on here. Are you showing that to everybody, or?
Yeah, that was just you. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure that you remember to hit the button when you use the laser pointer whenever you're describing something.
Oh, okay. Thank you. It's showing up on mine. It's not showing up on yours?
No, it's not. You would have to left click.
Oh, I see. Now it is.
There you
go. Yeah.
Sorry
okay, so I apologize for that. So you can see that this would be the over 20 and then down to birth to 5 years. And so without going into details, this we can say, for example, wiping independently. What % of males with Fragile X syndrome can wipe independently after using the toilet? And we can see that this is the most difficult skill for toileting skill for individuals with Fragile X syndrome to learn. And even in adults, over 60% still have some problems with that. So that's a really important piece of information for people to learn about when thinking about programs and services. This chart shows where adult males with Fragile X syndrome live, and one of the interesting things is that 40% of adults with Fragile X syndrome over the age of 40 still live with their parents. So this says that what kinds of choices parents are making, but also challenges with what's available in the community. Another piece of data that people were wondering is, well, how many families have more than one child with Fragile X syndrome? So we found that in this survey, 29% of those 1,000 families that responded have 2 or more children with Fragile X. So 280 families here had 2 or more children. 44 families had 3 children. And then finally, another really interesting piece of information was that we asked, how many families do you know that have a child with Fragile X syndrome, not including your relatives? And we were shocked to see, and maybe, Robbie, it's not surprising to you, but 27% of the families said they had never met another family that had a child with Fragile X. And so I think this provided really important information both for the foundation and for the links groups. Those are the families who are in the links groups are in these other groups of going 1 or 2 families or 3 to 10 families or more than 10 families. It's these families that we really need to find and make sure they're getting the support that they need. So what we're doing right now, with working with Ann Wheeler, we got a new grant from the CDC to conduct a new survey, and we just realized that it might be good to have a way for us to give families multiple opportunities to complete new surveys. So we're creating something called Our Fragile X World. This is really an RTI construction, and we're defining it as a community of families dedicated to providing practical information about the world of Fragile X as they know it. So families who enroll in Our Fragile X World agree that RTI researchers can contact them periodically to participate in survey studies about Fragile X. So this way we would have some core information about families, and then as we get new funding to do surveys or important questions come out, we can recontact families with their permission. So we have a new grant, like I said, from CDC to conduct a follow-up survey to provide more information about life experiences. We also have a contract from Novartis. It's a pharmaceutical company. They want information on behavior problems in Fragile X so it could serve as baseline data for evaluating the effects of new medications, another really important thing for everybody. So if you go to our website, and I'll show you that in a minute, we've kind of described a little bit of our vision and what we're hoping to accomplish. So, and hopefully kind of lofty terms. So our vision is that we'll harness the power of survey research to gather practical information about the experiences and perspectives of thousands of families from around the world who are affected by Fragile X. We really ultimately hope to make this a global thing, and I'm going to Amsterdam later this week. There's a meeting of 11 countries of the different Fragile X societies to talk about how they can work together, and doing a European survey will be one example of the things they're going to discuss. So our mission is we're going to use the information provided by families to help inform clinical science, to support the development of new policies, and to improve professional practice. So we thought about what concerns families might have about the survey and about the website. So we have this pledge that's on our website as well. So we promise that we're always going to tell people who are participating or enrolling who is funding any survey you're asked to complete. So you'll know whether it's funded by a federal agency or by a pharmaceutical company or any other source, and what we hope to learn from that survey. Of course, we promise we'll never share anybody's name or contact information or personally identifiable survey responses with anybody else. This will be confidential information kept in a highly secure environment by RTI. We'll respect families' wishes with regard to survey participation, so families who enroll in our Fragile X World simply agree that we can contact them and offer them the opportunity to participate in the survey, but they can say no at any time, and then we'll respect that decision and we'll contact you the next time the survey comes out. We also pledge to publish findings from the survey in respected journals. Some people were worried when we talked to them that, well, you know, if you got money from a pharmaceutical company, would they be the only people who had access to that information? And we won't take that kind of funding. We're only going to accept funding that would allow us to publish data in the public arena. And so we will use we'll share key findings with people who need to know this information, and we'll use our website to share with the participants what we've learned and what we're doing. And we've got multiple ways that people can contact us to ask questions about our Fragile X World. So here's our website, and if you go to www.ourfragilexworld.org, you log into it. This is the opening page, and it welcomes people and tells just a little bit about some links up at the top up here. So we've got contact information, frequently asked questions. We have reports from previous surveys. We describe the survey studies that we have funding for right now. We have a picture of everybody on our team and who they are. More detail about our Fragile X World and the pledge and vision and so forth, and then a way to log in. So you could go down here and click to log in or enroll in our Fragile X World. So when you do that, you come to a page that has one of these two options. So the login is for people who participated in the last survey in 2007. And so we've contacted those people already. Everybody's gotten at least one letter and some emails from us, and we've sent them their, of course they know their last name, and we've reminded them what their PIN number was last time, so they're the only ones who can log in on that. And if they know that and are ready to log in, they click this, and this immediately takes them to the enrollment page. Now, if it's a new family, we have to ask some additional information, and so we start by asking last name and date of birth, and then they start the enrollment process. And we think the enrollment should take about 15 or 20 minutes. So our timeline is that starting in March and going through July, we're going to be inviting all the families who participated in the original survey to enroll in our Fragile X World. And starting last week, we've been recruiting new families to enroll in our Fragile X World as well, so the ones who didn't take the survey the last time. So there's a variety of the strategies I'll describe for you. The National Fragile X Foundation has been very helpful in a number of ways. I'll show you in a minute. FRAX has agreed to work with us, and they're sending out an email to everybody on their mailing list. The Fragile X Clinical and Research Consortium are helping with us, and we're asking the links groups to help as well. So between May and July, we'll do our first survey, which is funded by Novartis, and this will focus on behavior problems. We'll offer a second survey this fall. It's funded by another pharmaceutical company that will be posted once we get final details on that, but it's around treatment outcome preferences. What would families like to see if they had to choose if a new medication, if it could do this but not that, which would you prefer? And then next January, we'll do this new CDC survey. Like I said, we'll be offering families the opportunity who enroll in our Fragile X World to participate in each of these surveys, and they can then choose whether to do each one of them or not. So far this chart shows you we've had, so this red line shows you the people who took the original survey, the over 1,000 people. We've recontacted them now, and over the last 5 weeks we've been encouraging them to re-enroll. So far we have 258 of the original families who have re-enrolled, and then we have 10 new families that have enrolled who didn't participate in the first survey. So it's we found last time it took about 6 months to get everybody enrolled. So it's quite a extensive process, and we find that reminders help a lot. So we sent out the first notice and we got this, and so we sent out an email reminder. We immediately that weekend got quite a few new families enrolling, and so we'll be sending out reminders periodically over the next few weeks. So here's the recruitment strategy. So we sent a letter and a brochure to every parent in the original survey who agreed that we could contact them, and with the follow-up reminders. So here's a picture of the brochure. I suspect that those of you who are on the call already got one of these in the mail. If you didn't, we'll definitely want to send you one. So basically is a front and back trifold brochure that talks about what our Fragile X World is and provides information like what is our Fragile X World, why is it important, why should I participate, what would I have to do, what's my obligation, who's doing it, and will my information be kept confidential, and then finally how to enroll. The foundation has done a prominent posting on its website, and so this is a rotating, one of the rotating pictures on the website, and so every 2 or 3 pictures that comes up, our Fragile X World, and there's an immediate link to our website there. Also, Robbie has been graciously agreed to have a dedicated column in each issue of the National Fragile X Foundation Quarterly, and so I'm sure you all have memorized the last quarterly, but you can see that we were the cover photo on this quarterly, and then we'll have then a one-page column, like one-page description each quarter. This one introduces our Fragile X World, but we'll be giving updates on either where we are with enrollment or with the different studies that are doing or what we've learned. So all the clinics are going to be mailing information to each family on their clinic list, plus they'll be doing a direct handoff of the brochure at clinic visits. So of course all of this means that a lot of families are going to get multiple letters because nobody can give us names of families. So they have to contact us on our behalf, and so because of that, if a family is going to a clinic and they're also on the foundation, in the foundation they were in our original survey, they're going to get maybe 3 or 4 different copies of the brochure. There's no way to avoid that. So finally, and the reason for this call is to ask for your support to reach out and encourage family participation. So here's a map, of course, you all are very familiar with this, of all the links groups, both where the clinics are and states where there are links groups and no clinics. And so this is why the clinics are going to help us with the purple states, but we really need help with all states. So here's what we would love to get from the links. First of all, please encourage all parents to at least consider enrolling in our Fragile X World, and whatever mechanisms you have, either in your parent group meetings or email list or whatever this way you have of distributing that to families, we would really appreciate that. We need a special reach out to minority families. We really had a low participation of minority families in the last survey. The CDC really wants us to have a special reach out, and we really want to know that information. It's really important for us to know the experiences and perspectives of families from diverse cultures. So we'll be focusing heavily on Latino families and African American families, but of course we would love to have any family in the survey, but we won't be able to translate it into any language other than Spanish. The brochure itself will be available in Spanish. The internet version of the survey won't be, but we'll have a call-in version for us, the Spanish-speaking interviewer. And then we're going to do another brochure that will make a special appeal to African American families, saying that we really need to learn about their experiences and perspectives, and we're in the middle of designing that right now. What you could also help us with is addressing any concerns that parents might have, and so I've tried to write down some of the concerns we've heard so far. Parents, first of all, are saying, well, if I sign up, does this mean I'm obligating myself to complete every survey? And so I want to just remind people that they can decline to complete any survey. We're just asking people to enroll right now, and once you get a survey, you can say yes or no to any particular survey. So we have two options. People can do the survey online or by telephone. We've decided not to do a paper and pencil survey. And we have very friendly interviewers. So Ann Edwards and Kristen and Megan are our key interviewers, and they all have a lot of experience and meeting families of kids with Fragile X syndrome. And I think you'll enjoy talking with them, and they'll enjoy talking with you. So we've had some very interesting calls already, and so people who are not internet savvy or just don't want to do it on the internet will do it by telephone. You can also they can also do the survey in pieces or sections. So let's say someone logs on and they get the first 10 questions done, and they have to go do something with their child. Well, you can log off and then come back at another time and complete the survey. So we have had a number of families that have done that, and so we wait a couple of weeks, and if people still haven't come back to finish it, we're in the middle of contacting them now to see if they need any help with anything. We're going to try to limit the survey offerings to 2 in any calendar year so we won't be overwhelming people. And just to remind people, we're not going to share their names or personal information with anyone. We're going to publish information. It's all going to be public, confidentially. It'll be nothing about individual people, but we're going to be publishing the findings. And one thing that people have asked, well, is this, now wait a minute, I signed up for a registry through UNC or through Wisconsin, or I signed up through a registry through the Fragile X Clinical and Research Consortium. So we've had some discussions with those groups, and we're really working hard to make sure we have a clear description of each one of them, and also that we're collaborating so that we're not asking you the same questions over and over again. But this is a survey registry, and so it's going to focus on family participation in the form of surveys. And I didn't expect this question, but when we called one parent, they said, well, you're going to be calling me and asking me for any donations. Well, that's not something we're going to be doing as a part of our Fragile X world. We're only going to be doing surveys. And so please encourage parents to contact us if they have any questions. We've got a website, and they can go to that website, and there's an email address, and there's this telephone number. It's a toll-free number they can call, and if no one answers the phone, they can leave a message, and we'll try our best to get back to you that day or the next day. And then finally, we would like to know what we can do to help make this easy for you. So we could certainly send you a stack of brochures, or we could create some fact sheets if you'd like something like that. We've got some frequently asked questions that are on the website, and we could print that out if that would be helpful. So let's say you're in Arizona or Indiana or Illinois or wherever you are, Texas. You say, I've got about 50 families that I know about, and if you could send me brochures, I'll make sure they get them. Let me know that, let us know that, and we'll send you a packet of materials. If there are some, I would consider coming and visiting your links group. We would just have to have a conversation about that. I think we would have to primarily focus on areas where we had low parent participation before, and where there's a reasonable number of families there. So if you're in Hawaii and only have 2 families there, I think I probably could, well, I might like to go to Hawaii. But I think in general we wouldn't be doing that, but I would certainly try to make high priority visits if you think that would be important. We're also considering some kind of incentives for group participation. So we're all, for example, we're thinking about something like for every 20 families in a links group that enrolls, we'll pay for one registration to the a family registration for the Miami conference next year. And so I think that would be something that would be of interest to the links groups, and wouldn't be an incentive for each individual, but would give the groups an incentive to get the families in. And so that's something we're thinking about. We're having to look at budgets and see how we can make that work. And if there were other incentives that you thought might be more helpful, we could certainly take a look at those as well. And then other things we could do to help you, we'd like to know about that. So that's the end of the slides that I have, and so it's a quick overview of where we are and what we're trying to do. And so David and Robbie, what I'd like to do is spend the rest of the time answering any questions that people have. And I think you can type questions, you can raise a hand and just ask it. There are not that many people on the call, so I think we could just do an audio query if that works, David. Does that work?
Yeah, that'll work. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and either raise your hand or just shout them out.
Yeah, just shout them out, and don't forget if you muted your phone to unmute it. And maybe if you could identify
that would be phone sticks to unmute yourself.
All right. And if you could identify yourself too, that'd be great.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Lisa Katz. I have a 36, soon to be 37-year-old son with Vagilex, and a month ago I finally got his doctors to prescribe Abilify for him. It has made a phenomenal difference. And this isn't real, well, it's a comment as well as a question. I'm thrilled that he is calmer and able to do some things that he never was able to do before because of his high stress level or high intensity in all kinds of situations. And my question is, have any studies been done? Are there people finding this drug to be helpful?
So certainly there are, I'll just kind of give a general answer, there are lots of clinical trials that are going on right now for different medications, and I believe that there has been one on Abilify, but I couldn't tell you the results of it because I don't know it offhand. Maybe that's something we could have a conversation offline, or Robbie could send you some information about it. But I will say that, you know, your question is a really important one because right now there's lots of new medications coming out and they need to be tested, and some of the drug companies are struggling to figure out, well, what would you measure? How would you know whether the medication worked or not? And so two of the surveys that we're doing are trying to address that. So one of them is getting some baseline data on some problems in Fragile X so that as these new medications get tested, we can say, well, here's what most kids with Fragile X syndrome look like, and here's what they look like when they were getting this medication. And also, some medications may work well for some symptoms and not so well for other symptoms. And so the companies are especially interested in what are the symptoms that are most important to families to be treated. And so that's going to be the focus of one of our surveys as well. So thanks for asking that question. I couldn't answer specifically about Abilify, but you've raised this will be a major focus of our upcoming work, is how can we help make the testing of new drugs a really effective process.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This is Buffy Grandy from Virginia, and I was in touch with Renee recently about you all coming up perhaps for a conference that we're trying to pull together, or a mini conference I'll call it, in the October time frame. So what would you offer on something like that for a links group?
So you're talking about Renee Clark?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll answer your question in 1 second. So just to remind you that the registry that Renee has, this is why this can be kind of confusing, is a different it's a registry that they're doing to set up in combination with the group at Wisconsin for right. So this is a separate registry, but
I guess I was saying similar to their registry. They were going to come in, and I was just curious what.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't state my question. What you all could help us out with, during the mini conference.
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly talk about that. I'd be glad. I mean, we certainly consider coming up there and talking to people about, our Fragile X world, and to give some examples of findings from the survey and answer questions that parents have. We'd love to be able to do that.
Okay.
Pardon?
Great.
Yeah.
Great. That sounds
great. Linda and David and Robbie will have to figure out ways now for us to communicate with the links coordinators, and especially for the individual one. So, what was your first name again? I apologize.
My first name is Buffy.
Buffy. Okay. So you could email me directly, or you could just email us at and my email address is dbailey@rti.org. Okay. And you could email me directly, and if you lose that address, just go to the website and there's a contact email address there or a toll-free number. You can just call and we can have an individual discussion about that.
Okay. I was just curious what that would look like to come to a links group. Okay.
We can individualize it for what, I mean, I can't give a lecture on reading interventions because I don't know that, but I can give, we can talk about what would be most useful for you.
Okay.
Melissa or Ann Wheeler, are there any things that I said that were erroneous or that need to be added to?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, we've definitely, had a couple of questions, and I think from families calling in, but I think you've covered most of them. But I think we just want to stress that, if anybody has, questions that are hesitant, to enroll, then feel free to give us a call, and we're happy to talk to you and make sure that you're completely understanding, what it is that we're asking of you, which is really just enrolling at this point.
Right, and we promise it wouldn't be a hard sell to enroll and at all. And, if people have concerns or for whatever reason that don't want to do it, we can certainly understand. We won't be pushing people to do that, but we would like the opportunity to answer any questions if people do have concerns. And if there are things we can improve about it, we'd like to know that.
Don, this is Ravi.
Yeah.
Just to underscore the importance and the value of the survey, I know at the beginning of your talk you mentioned that you had published a paper on toileting, correct?
It was a broader paper on functional skills, and it was included in that paper, yes.
And could you just mention what some of the other papers were?
Sure.
And do you have a picture of what the papers coming out of the new round of the family survey will be, or is that determined by the survey results?
That's determined by the survey results and about the purpose of the survey. And that's one of the, we just had a big call with the Centers for Disease Control today about starting to brainstorm about what would be the next set of questions we would be asking. And we'll also be talking with the clinicians in the Fragile X consortium and reaching out to parents as well and seeing what they think we should be asking. But so in terms of some of the other papers, I think we've published 10 papers already from this, and we've got more under review as we speak. So in addition to the diagnosis paper and the functional skills paper, Melissa had one on obesity and physical activity and in Fragile X syndrome. We had one on that Elizabeth Berry Kravis did on seizures. We had one on self-injurious behavior. We had one on the economic costs of Fragile X. We had a paper on sleep issues in Fragile X. It was the first big sample study of sleep problems and what people were doing about it. And so for the first time we can say, what % of kids with Fragile X syndrome have seizures, or what % have sleep problems. And there's a paper on adult lives of individuals with Fragile X. There never really had been a paper on that before. So for some of them, Robbie, we have, as you know, developed some short kind of fact sheets about what we found, and those are already posted on our Fragile X World website. And but we know we didn't do as thorough a job of that as we would like to have done with the first survey, and so we're really going to focus this time on making some family-friendly versions of our findings to share as quickly as we can.
Great. Thank you.
So, David, I know you have a list of who's on the line now, and so maybe if we could figure out a way for us to email them and thank them for being on and doing a direct kind of follow-up, or they can follow up with us as well. I'd like to keep the conversation going, and I know you're going to be posting this and letting other, so that and you've recorded it, and you're going to keep a copy of the slides?
That's right. And actually, Don, I see somebody who just raised their hand.
Okay.
There you go. Sandra Gutierrez. Sandra, okay. You unmute by hitting the pound sign and then 6.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. I'm calling from El Paso, Texas.
Hi.
Hi, I am wondering if you all have any suggestions, because I know several families here who have children with Fragile X syndrome, and I've been having a very hard time just coming to meet me even, getting them all together. Of course, most of them have very small children that have just been diagnosed, so I know that. They're barely in that process of accepting it.
Right.
But any suggestions are welcome, you know, and I would love those brochures, and maybe I can mail them out to them.
Sure. That would be great to do that because especially newly diagnosed families, we don't have contact information for them, of course, because they wouldn't have taken the original survey. And some of them may or may not have been to one of the clinics. I mean, if they're in Texas, we were starting to work with Baylor, but who knows whether they were actually where they were diagnosed. And so your reach out to them at a personal level is really going to be important. We're very interested in kind of recent diagnostic experiences of families. So, but at the same time, you hit on a really important concern, and these are a lot of the families are struggling to deal with the information. They may have just learned it. They're trying to figure out what it means for them, and to participate in a survey right now is just not high on their priority list, and we understand that. And so I think one of the strategies would be to help kind of keep this available for families in the future if they're not ready to do it right now. But I don't know if Robbie or Linda have other suggestions for families like
actually,
this.
I have one. This is Holly. Sandra, one of the things you're going to be hearing about us, coming from Linda and I reaching out to the Links group leaders, is we're going to be working on a survey to help you guys identify more people in your area. So we're going to be helping bring your membership up and to help you reach more families. So then in return, you'll be able to reach out with them more. So just give Linda and I just a little bit of time as we finish a little bit there, and we're going to help you guys who want to participate in that survey to reach out to more members in your communities and help reach people that are in our database that may not know that your group's there, so that your groups can grow, and then you'll have more opportunities to reach out to.
Hey, Holly, this is Mike, and I was Sandra. I'm from San Antonio, and we started a links group here in the Fragile X Alliance of Texas, and we're trying to kind of branch out all over Texas. And we've actually started our own survey to get more folks, and the foundation has helped us send that to all kinds of people in Texas as well. I'd love to get your contact information and get in touch with you on how we can help you guys in El Paso.
Hey, as well. Mike, it's on the website.
Okay.
She's listed on the website under Texas. I'm pretty sure all of her information is up to date.
Okay.
And as for Texas, let me be the first to tell you, if you don't know, that there are now Fragile X clinics in both Dallas and Houston, and they have membership applications before the Fragile X Clinical and Research Consortium, and those memberships are likely to be approved this month. So we have now 2 clinics in the state of Texas.
And I have to make a comment about this. This is Lisa Katz. I'm in Dallas. I'm the one with the almost 37-year-old Fragile X kid. Those research studies are coming about. This is a wonderful story. There's a gentleman who works at the Dallas Arboretum. It's a wonderful place with lots of flowers and all kinds of stuff. He has a very high-functioning Fragile X son. And because of what he does, and because of his son, the woman who is now, I think she's 95, 98, whatever, she is the widow of one of the founders of Texas Instruments. And she's given money to fund one of these Fragile X studies. And there's also another foundation in Dallas, which is an old-time, very, very wealthy one. They have a Fragile X son. So this much of the personal interest and contacts. It's been a long time coming, but anyway, that's where the money's coming from. And this past weekend, they had a luncheon at the Arboretum for Fragile X and autistic people, and it was really pretty good. I don't know if you know about it, if you hear about it. Colonel Wildenthal, who used to be dean of the medical school in Dallas, was there. as well as Ms. Margaret McDermott, who gave funding for the luncheon, Representative Meadows Foundation, and the doctors who are actually doing the research, Dr. Huber, a psychiatrist, a pediatrician who's married to the guy who's now the head of the medical school. So anyway, and my son behaved. It was the first time he behaved because of Abilify, right? So it was a big milestone.
Well, it sounds like all of you have good connections with lots of different people, and that's what it's really going to take is some personal connections to encourage people from our perspective. And so I'd be glad to follow up with anybody individually on the call. I see that Roger Cooperman is logged on from South Carolina, and Roger and I also already have a time scheduled to speak in the next couple of days to follow up from here. So I'd be glad to schedule those. Either I or a member of my team would be glad to chat with you to help figure out what would work best for you and in your local area. So if you all could take the initiative to reach out to us, we'd be glad to get right back.
Just want to say thank you very much for what you're doing, and we really appreciate you being there.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, it's been so interesting and so much fun to do, and we do think it's telling a story that other research hasn't told. And one of the things in the CDC call that we had a lot of discussion about today was that so many of the previous studies have focused on the problems in Fragile X, and we'd like to focus on, at least on part of this survey, of what are some positive stories about the great things that individuals and families affected by Fragile X have been able to do. So we're going to really focus on that as well. You all are a real inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Robbie, I think we're about to close of our hour here. So, unless anybody has any questions, I think we could probably sign off. And I'm sure that you'll be back in touch with the people on the call and the other Links folks about this and next steps.
Absolutely, and I can't thank you and everyone there at RTI, Don, enough for all the work you're doing. Thanks for being available tonight.
Great, thank you. Okay, well, good night, everyone, and have a good evening.
Good night.